I would say that meditating or just being is really the key mechanism or driver forth of the integration process. It's all about awareness and attention. And integration, there's a lot to be said about it because there's so many different types of psychedelic experiences with different substances in different settings. Some of these, and there's many different categories of these experiences. Some will be more oriented around healing. Some will be more oriented around kind of awakening. Some will be more personally oriented. Some will be more transpersonal. And so the content of integration is always going to change. It's always going to be unique. But I would say that the mechanism of integration, the how, is pretty much always the same. And it's as simple as sit with it. Sit with it. Be with it. Give yourself time and space to reflect on the experience, to just sit with it. And again, it is about like going beyond or deeper than the mind, like setting aside all the mental chatter about like that, the whole narration about, what the story about what has transpired and all that, and really contacting or feeling into your very core and seeing what is there in that moment. How has this experience, this profound psychedelic experience, affected your embodied state of being in this present moment? And just sit with it. Just feel, allow it to move through you and wash over you. And that is kind of like just that simple meditative, or really it's awareness and attention. Those are the tools for alchemy on the spiritual path and on the healing path as well. That's what it's really all about. And beyond that, I mean, of course, meditation and mindfulness and presence are very key there. I would also say that there are other ways to process this experience as well, such as creative expression. Writing and journaling is very common, or even painting on a canvas if that's something that calls to you. I would also say that having some community of people, or at least, or just even one other person, whether it be online or in person, hopefully in person, someone who you can who non-judgmentally, from a place of love and acceptance and positivity and compassion, can hear you and feel you and recognize your experience, who you can kind of share and process this experience with. I find that's very, very helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like what you said about just sitting with it. So powerful just to sit with it, which is another way of saying that then is to offer it no resistance. Just to offer it, because again, through this conditioned perception, this sense of separation that, of course, so many beings have become accustomed to as their own sense of self-identity, is they feel separate from life, feel separate from other people, feel separate from nature. Their existence, their experience is a sense of separation, both on an energetic level and on a belief system level. And in that sense of separation, inherent in that sense of separation, there is a sense of resistance towards life as well. So many of the things that people are experiencing in their day-to-day life, things that happen, situations that happen, things that people say, their own emotions that arise and their own thoughts that come, often they're being met with this kind of resistance. It's like two brick walls, two cars smashing together. So in that sense of, like you've just said, just allowing yourself just to be with whatever arises is another way of saying, like you say, is just to have no resistance to it, to allow it to pass and move straight through. And by doing that, it is also integrated into the light of awareness, as you spoke about with awareness. So it's like absorbing everything in that loving presence, that light of presence.
Yes.
Which is that true source, that true oneness.
Yes.
Having anything that arises, meeting it with acceptance, with non-resistance, automatically brings it into yourself to be then integrated. No
Mm-hmm.
longer are we standing in opposition to life, in opposition to particular things. And so in essence, that integration is kind of creating more and more sense of oneness and sense of expansion and flow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like what you said there with
That is
just
a really sorry to cut you. Sorry to interrupt. That I was just going to say that is a really really good point, and like raising this idea of resistance is also a very like so much of what you just said is applicable not only in the psychedelic experience, not only in integration, but life in general. Uh, the this kind of practice, which is not even really a practice, like it's not a doing, it's a state of being of non-resistance. This is the key to peace from within, to living a life of peace from within. And that's part of the reason why the psychedelic experience is such a powerful experience, because in a lot of cases, it will bring up difficult so in some cases you're facing your deepest fears, you know. In some cases you are it takes you back to some kind of childhood trauma or really difficult repressed emotional experiences that are being dredged up from the subconscious and are and it's very tempting to, or it's in many cases it's compulsive to like try to run away or push that away or resist that experience when from my experience, what I've found is those are really that's what, when I hear of bad trips or difficult trips, um, in my own experience, it's really coming from a place of resistance. Like when we resist the experience, just the raw experience that's arising in the psychedelic experience, when it's too scary or too overwhelming or too, you know, emotionally challenging, our compulsion is to push it away or resist it or run the other direction. And that's when these trips get spiral downwards into even progressively more difficult experiences. So this is like a master class in a way in practicing the non-practice, that being state of radical acceptance, because that is the key. That is the I don't know what to call it, like the Jedi mind state that will get you through the psychedelic experience, and that will take you towards where we're all trying to go ultimately, I think. And I also see it like, as you were talking, it brought to mind this kind of analogy or the metaphor of the blossoming of a flower. And as cheesy as it sounds, like so much of the awakening process, whether through psychedelics or not, is very much like the blossoming of a flower, the blossoming of consciousness, where there's nothing that anyone could ever do to peel open a seed and forcibly pull the flower blossom out of the seed. Of course, that's counterproductive. That would not be effective. But instead, if the right conditions are present, then the blossoming happens effortlessly on its own accord through the infinite intelligence and the divine grace of this miracle mystery of life. And that's something that you see very much through the psychedelic experience and this integration phase. A lot of integration, again, is not that I have to do X, Y, and Z to be fully integrated. It's more just about deepening into that place of acceptance and surrender, not a surrender that you're giving up, but a surrender that you're coming into full conscious alignment with this present moment and just allowing it to move through you, and blossoming happens on its own. The healing, the awakening magically, miraculously emerges out of that expanded higher state of consciousness.